taught college, I would lock the door after 5 minutes. All right, we get started. So I did teach college. I taught college for 10 years, and I would close the door. And I have terrible timekeeping habits. I'm always 5 minutes late, but I drew the line at about 10 minutes when I would lock the door. And my rule with them was you can do whatever you want in the class as long as it doesn't disturb somebody else's learning. If you want to sleep, that's fine. Just don't snore. If you want to read the newspaper, just don't rustle it. Do whatever you want, because it was college, which was nice because they're adults and they have to take responsibility. They sent me to an all-girls Catholic high school one day. Yeah, I came out crying. They ate me alive. They're like dogs. They smell fear. They were up on the desks. They were using their phones. I ran out of that place. So leave me with the over 18-year-olds that I don't have to actually. Okay, there you go. Yeah. 2 years, I lasted 2 hours, so a whole lot better than me. So that's part of the reason for going back to this, because I do, teaching is my passion. I do miss it. So the Quantum Leap program, I came across it through my son doing it. So my son, when he turned 18 last year, he was lucky enough to go to Austin for 2 days and hang out with Gary Keller. So it was an 18 to 25-year-old program. It's a Quantum Leap program. I tried to sneak in. They just wouldn't believe that I was under 25. So he had a fantastic time and he learned a lot. And of course, I assumed when he went into it, well, it's got to be real estate. And I don't, anyone with kids, like, do you want your kids to go into real estate? In some ways, yes. Some ways, maybe not. Maybe it's not their skill set. And we all know the ups and downs that goes with it, right? So I'm like, I don't know if I want to send them on a real estate program. But it's not. It's about living a big life. It's all about mindset and setting yourself up for success in whatever that turns out to be. He had such a mix of people in the room with him. The only people who it didn't really suit there was one girl who had, she wanted to be a medic, and she had a plan, and her parents were both entrepreneurs, and they sent her on this, and she knew exactly what she wanted to do. She wanted to do so many years of this program. She wanted to do her pre-med. She wanted to do her residencies here. She wanted to specialize in whatever, and she had a path, and she knew exactly what she wanted. So this didn't speak to her. This was more entrepreneurial, but there was a lot of kids there who took a lot from it. There was people who go over and over because there's a lot to gain from it. If any of you've done any Keller Williams classes, whether it's on leverage, leadership, any programs, if you go again, there's all different instructor, different examples. It resonates with you differently. Except for the one kid who had been for about his 5th time, and Gary talked about relationships and people and connecting with people who would, help you bring success to your life, like a rich dad, poor dad kind of characters maybe in your life. And on his 5th trip, the kid said, maybe I should call my billionaire uncle. It didn't dawn on him until the 5th time in the course. So I don't know what was going in with that guy, but the other kids had gone multiple times and gained a lot from it. So it's all about, like I said, mindset and living a big life. And my son got a lot from it. And then my background is teaching, and my passion is wanting to lean back into that. And there's a lot in this as well about, about how you live your life, living your life through what brings you joy, using your passion to deliver value to people around you. So that's the journey I'm on at the moment, where I've had a team and done production and loved that. Mostly loved it because it was a team, because that spoke to my mentoring, teaching, seeing others succeed. I'm wanting to go back to that in a teaching capacity. So that's why I'm interested in doing this right now. So the value for you guys is a couple. There's a few of these lying around. You're welcome to take them with you. I'm going to go through some of it. It's a 2-day program. I want to introduce it for kind of from 2 angles. One is to show you some of the material in there that have value for you, some ways to think about things, some mindset exercises, but also to look at the program and see what value it might have to you if you had an interest in becoming an instructor. So the program is primarily, it's 2 audiences. It's the 18 to 25-year-olds. And when you look at some of the material and you think of the opportunities if you had that, and a lot of us who are, not 18 to 25 anymore, when we see people young in the business, we can be very excited by that and say, oh my gosh, imagine if I had these ideas and this mindset when I was 20. We went to that program, the Brett Tanner one, who runs the wealth programs. And, there's some kid, I want to say he was 19 or 20, and he'd done $1 million that year. And he was doing, a lot of it was his own flipping homes. It wasn't just selling for other people. He was getting into investing and flipping. And looking at people coming into that mindset at that young age is really exciting. So I think there's value in giving back to your community, which can drive your business, especially if you have any community-based business. So that's one thing I intend to do, that if I can deliver locally to high schools or the university, that there's groups that you can get into and deliver value to them, and that comes back to you in business. So that's something you might have an interest in doing. I know somebody else from Central reached out to me. She does some support work with teenagers and groups, and she wants to deliver it to them. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. Go through some of it, see how much we get through. The other group they do is high school, so we have just a slight variation on the program for high schools. And it is delivered. You'll see it. If anyone knows who Kristen Cole is out of Arizona, she's got a whole Kristen Cole network. She does a lot of training and teaching, so she teaches it to agents. Nikki Miller, if you know who Nikki Miller is, she teaches to agents as well. So it is taught to agents too. So some of it, I won't spend time on because it's more aimed at the high school or the young adults. But it's things I try. The primary thing you're trying to do is engage them, right? They're sitting in lectures all day. I sat in on my husband did a guest lecture at OU last week. So watching the kids like schlep in, and some of them came in 40 minutes late. That's why I think at some point you got to close the door. So the lecturer had gone to the trouble to bring in a guest lecturer, and people were still rambling in 40 minutes late. So part of it is to get them energized and get them engaged at the beginning, because you want them to get out of their next class mindset, because that's often who your audience would be. So we talk about being fully present, turning off your phones, engaging, and if you ever heard about the prisoner mindset, so what's your mindset going into somewhere? So we've all done the Con Ed where we have the have to be here mindset, so you don't really get a whole lot from it, right? Because you're when is this going to be over? You're not engaged. Or do you have a learner mindset? So it's trying to set the scene that they come into it excited and trying to see what they can get from it, not just get through it. So I don't know if there's that analogy of the mindset. So what the things we tried to cover, and again, I won't get anywhere near all the way through it, but it's about intention and purpose. So that's part of the beginning of the mindset. So for me, it's to do with teaching, because yes, I was doing real estate, and there was definitely times where I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't, where's my passion? Do I really love showing people houses? I'm like, oh. And then when I really could connect it with what really matters to me and where I feel I can hopefully make a difference in the world is really through teaching and mentoring. So when I connect it with that, that's where your purpose comes from. So there's that kind of some mindset stuff to there, and visualize it. Same point, was taken a bit deeper. Visualizing a life that excites you. So then it goes into things like manifesting. So if you believe it, it can happen. So it all starts with manifesting it. Now, my basketball career, I'm still working on manifesting that, but I don't know. We'll see. Further on, it goes into some finance stuff that I won't get to, but there's some basic stuff, especially with high school, young adults age, talking about things like compound interest and some of the basics that they don't understand. I know my 19-year-old doesn't, so that's one part of the class that didn't stick with him. If I look at his credit card bill and his credit score today, I know he wasn't paying attention to that part of the class. But so it digs into a bit of that you can deliver to younger adults and even older adults. What are our habits today? Can we change some of our financial habits? Do we think big? That's up there. So, and all of this is in here. So when if you hadn't, again, you're welcome to take these. The way the program is set up, you spend, I forget the exact price, it's a few $100s to join it. They send you all the manuals, they send you everything you need, bunch of videos. There's lots of videos of Gary telling his stories. So that's part of the what you bring into it. And then whenever you host one, you just order as many of these as you want. So I just randomly picked 15. So there's a bunch there. You're welcome to take any of them. So you order these, and then it's one for each student and the students sign up for free, and you suggest a donation, because it's all part of it. They've just recently changed the name. It was KW Cares, and they've just changed it to KW Next Gen. But if you're familiar with KW Cares, so it's charity based. They do scholarships for kids who are interested in doing this. And they do it in bite-sized pieces too. They take parts of the program and divide it up as well. So you're welcome to take those with you. And again, I won't get through all of it. So it starts off by talking about whose life are you leading. So it's about where we get our ideas of what we should do in life. Are you following in a parent's footsteps? Are you following some expectations of your peers? So I had a conversation with my daughter. She met with her counselor, and she's quite frustrated because he's giving her a hard time about anything she doesn't have an A in. She goes to Adams High School, where there's a singular focus of 4.0 and above. Try to get into U of M. You don't get into U of M, you go to state, and if you don't get to state, whatever. So there's just this very singular focus in that school. It's a great school, but so they're set up for an expectation of where they're supposed to go. So when you have kids who have a different path, they're artistic, they're interested in the trades, they have some, other skill set or different passion. Sometimes the environment around it doesn't speak to that for them, and it doesn't help them get to where they want to be. And I'm sure many of us have followed a path because we thought that's what we were supposed to do based on parents, peers, teachers, whatever. I was lucky enough, I had a teacher who told me when I was about, fifth grade, like 10th, 11th grade. He said, well, what are you doing that for? I was going to go into marketing and languages because that's what everybody, was doing. That's what you're supposed to do. He said, well, what are you doing that for? He says, you're really good at math. Why don't you do engineering? I'm like, well, it never occurred to me. I don't know any engineers. Nobody ever suggested to me. The only suggestions around me was marketing and languages. So I did engineering and it served me well. So I was lucky to have somebody at that point, at age, whatever, 16, 17, suggest that to me. So it's about, for a younger audience, to suggest that they, think about that, think about whose life they want to lead their own life, or even reinventing ourselves if we're not that age, right? Because we've all, especially in real estate, anybody speaking in real estate, chances are it's not their first career. They've all come from teaching or auto industry or bakery or wherever it was. We all came, generally speaking, real estate people have come from somewhere else. So we've reinvented ourselves. I turned 50 this week and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I started out engineering, then college professor, then real estate, and now I don't know. See what's next. So for younger people, it's about thinking about that at their point in life, and or for us to potentially reinvent ourselves. So for me, with real estate, I didn't know why I started it. I didn't start it with intention, but once I started to reflect and say, well, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this? Am I, doing something I have a passion for? I could connect it. So that's what the whose life are you living idea is about. And then quantum, the name comes from small movements making huge changes. So it's a ripple effect. We can all make a small change to, do something different every day. And little by little, if we all improve 1% every day, it's a compounding effect. Okay. So one of the exercises, again, well, I'm just kind of condensing this. So you get into personal state. If you're working with the whole program, you'll get into writing out personal statements and trying to figure out, who you are. We get into self-mastery, about how you structure your life, and talk a little bit about the difference between mastering something and living the path of mastery. Slightly different in that, mastering something is, you've taken the class, you've got the certification, there's some kind of finish line. And living a life in the path of mastery is different. It's about being constantly learning, having learned. So in the Keller Williams models, they use the phrase being learning based. And for me, coming from 10 years in college, it was always that we were lifelong learners. So we had committees that were the teaching and learning committee. So we were teaching, but we were always learning. We were always learning new material. And we know this from not even just through Con Ed, right? We're just constantly learning on the job. Like, has anybody figured out everything about real estate? You got it all buttoned down, all figured out. What if there's a septic? What if there's mold? What if there's somebody getting divorced? What if there's a ladybird deed? What if, right? So the only way we can be good at our jobs is by having a learning mindset, always trying to figure out. I know if it's septic, I'm calling Susan because I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to septic. Even what am I, 8, 9 years in? There'll be certain things I just don't know. Certain neighborhoods, I'm calling Tiffany because I'm like, Tiffany, they want to look down in, Clawson. Tell me about the market down there, what the values are. So when we talk about mastery, it's about having that mindset to always be learning. So when we talk about quantum, when we talk about small changes making a big difference, we start by how we think about things, right? So it's all that self-talk, right? We all talk to ourselves all day long about what you can do and what you can't do, and the markets, especially now. So that's another reason why I think this. Even though the program is originally designed for younger adults, it's great for us, I think, at this stage in the market to stop and reflect, right? Everything's shifting and it's very easy just to get down on ourselves and think, oh, well, the market's shifted and, oh, dang, I'm only going to do half the business this year I did before. Or we can look at our systems and we look at our mindset and we spend some time on self-development. When I do these things, I laugh at, say, my parents' generation. I don't know if anyone remembers, like, 70s, 80s, it was called self-help. There was self-help books by Dr. Spock and people like that. I remember my aunt was into it and my parents thought she was nuts. It was, what's this self-help mumbo jumbo? This, I think it was The Path Less Followed, was the Dr. Spock book. Obviously, culture has changed hugely with that. We use the phrase self-development more often, and it's we see the value in it. Hopefully nobody's laughing at you thinking it's mumbo jumbo because you're taking a class on mindset these days. So we think, and again, this goes back to whose life are you leading? Obviously, a lot of stuff that you think and believe and whatever comes from your environment, comes from your parents. So reflecting on that, and seeing where that's leading you, and is it helping drive you to where you want to be? Are your actions reflected in are their actions bringing you to where you want to be based on your beliefs and ideas? So some of your background, say for example for me, right? So I grew up in a lot of my mindset was about what I'm not as opposed to what I am. I grew up in a family with slightly negative mindset in that, well, we lived in this neighborhood, but we don't associate with those people because they're whatever. So mom was a snob, basically. So it was things like what we're not, right? So we live here, but we don't go to that church, and we live here, but we won't join that sport thing. So it was a negative. It was, oh, well, we're not this, we're not that. So it wasn't a positive mindset about who we were. So I would find myself falling into, well, I'm doing it because I'm doing it because I know it's not this and it's not this, so I guess I'll do this. So trying to, as an adult, flip that mindset and find out what I want to be. Who am I? What do I do? What are the positive traits? Not trying to think in a framework of just what it's not. So it's about mindset and just trying to flip it to looking at your passions, your skills, what you want to be. So one of the things that I'm really interested in lately is age. So I'm looking at retirement stuff, but you see things like pre-retirement. I don't know if everyone's heard that phrase. But for me, so the idea here is that the traditional mind says you go to school, you work, then you can retire and have some fun. With all your hard work is going to pay off when you're 63, 67, and that's going to keep moving out because the money's not there. Social Security is going to keep pushing and pushing. So we grow up with this mindset, you study hard, you work hard, then you can retire and have some fun. How many stories have you heard of people who retire and they're on the golf course? They're either bored and they go back to work, or they're unlucky enough to die within a year. I met my last trip to Arizona. I met a lady who was chatting about her, how she moved there in retirement and whatever. And she was referring to her husband, and I asked about the husband. She says, well, he died within the year when we arrived. So it's an awful shame to spend your life working towards some goal that you don't get to. So part of the mindset on this one is we got to bring it all together. We got to learn, work, play. So we joke about my husband, who we call him, he's the youngest person in the house. Is every gift is Lego, and he's a CEO, and part of his thing is like, well, he's childlike, he's creative, he's fun, he's loving life, and it's bringing value to his work as well. He has a great relationships with his team. He's great creativity going on in his meetings. So it's learning, working, playing all the time. So I'm going back to learning, going back to teaching. So it's a different mindset about if you really, if you segment them one after the other, well, who knows what's waiting for you down here, and it's a shame. So and you bring more value to people if you're doing something you're passionate about. Who's had a teacher or a trainer where they had a passion for what they did? I mean, how much difference does it make? Who had a teacher who was checked out? I had a history teacher, and I absolutely hate history because she was checked out. One of my kids unfortunately has a math teacher who's checked out and won't retire. I called the local tutor, and he knew the teacher. And he said, "Oh yeah, I know him. I used to work with him, and I was trying to be careful in what I said, and I was tiptoeing around it." And he said, "No, it's okay. You can say it. I know. He's great for business." So he drives all the kids to the tutor. The tutors know his name. Oh, they probably have Mr. X. So we've all had those. So he's just counting down to retirement. And clearly he's not loving what he's doing right now. Maybe he did at one point, but he's not. So it's about kind of thinking in those terms and looking at, this extraordinary life that you want to lead. So these days, I'm loving what I do. I'm loving this. I'm loving taking clients out. I took a first-time buyer today to for his final walk to a close tomorrow. He had mom with him, and mom had a cake for me to thank me for looking after her son. So that's where I know I love those moments. So I know I'm enjoying life while working. I'm not counting down to the end of the day. Then we look at, well, how do we manage it all? So we're looking at timing, right? And if anyone's read The One Thing, so it's Gary Keller and Jay Papasan's book, and he talks about balanced life, work-life balance. We all hear this work-life balance. Their model is, well, you're never balanced. You're never perfectly, balanced. it's all about counterbalancing. So you know those what do you call those extra boost on? Is it the ball with the thing? You gotta. So we're constantly doing this. Keeps us fit. So we're looking at family, we're looking at work, and how do we keep it all together? And one of the examples they give is they describe this model of going short and going long. So they do this zigzag line, and they say, well, if in theoretically, this is balance. So we're either going short or going long. So going long is, you're putting something off for, till next year, till 2 years time, 5 years time. So if you're going long to have fun in your retirement, you might never get there. So they look at this going short and going long, and what they suggest is you got to go short on the really important stuff, the family stuff, right? If you are going to work hard, and then spend time with your kids when they turned 18, well, you're not going to know them. They're going to be gone. So you got to go short on the really important stuff, and the other stuff can go long, right? You take a career break, you switch gears, you go off on a training course to upskill, which means you get out of your everyday work for a while, or you dive into a project. So that's their recommendation, that we can't really have it all balanced. And then the other important part of switching between things is one of the trainers, Nikki Miller. She's a younger girl with she's a toddler, and she describes being like really really great at one thing at a time, and at simultaneously being crap at it. I'm being a crap mom right now, is the way she describes it. Right, I'm not. I don't know what's going on with you. I don't know if being fed, watered, happy, crying. I don't even know, because she stays in the room. She says, but when I get home at whatever, but she's really rigid with her time. She goes home and the phone goes in a drawer, and she spends the next 2 hours with her kid. So she does this switching, and it's true about how the brain works. When I see my kids on TikTok while studying, and they're like, "Oh, it's fine, I can multitask." And if you've read any of the psychology on it, your brain actually can't multitask. It's nonsense. You flip between things quickly, but you can't actually do two things at the same time. So they're constantly flicking. So they wonder why their homework takes so long. Like, well, because you're watching a movie while you're doing your homework. Yeah, you can get it done, but if you concentrated on it. So that's where they come up with this model in Jay Papasan's thing. And then one of the examples from Gary Keller is I did his, and it's part of they cover some of the material from here. I went on the servant leadership program, so I went to Austin and I got to sit in a class with Gary Keller, and that was my question. So he goes through the list of all of his businesses. I don't know if you know how many businesses this guy's in, and then Tony Robbins, I can't remember the number. He has you went to family reunion. He's got how many businesses there? Yeah, and they're $1 billion. They're number of them. Yeah, yeah. So how can he like stick a pin in that while he's on stage at family reunion? Or how can, and I've ever seen Gary talk. Gary's like in his black t-shirt and his thing. He's got a stool there, and he's just cool out, having a chat and answering the questions. And so it goes to the list of all of his businesses. He owns half of Austin, between cinemas and nightclubs and music venues, and he's so present. So that was my question to him. I'm like, how can you like be here and answer all our questions and be present for the whole day while all this is going on in the background? And he said, I have a great boss. He said, I hired myself a great boss. So he makes his personal assistant is his boss. She tells him what he can and can't do. She manages his calendar. So it's about leverage. It's about knowing that you've got, and it's about people. So anybody who's done teams or got involved in any of that, or even if you're not involved in teams, you're leaning on leadership here. You're getting your listings inputted for free. So you're leaning on good people. You're leaning on whether it's leadership or your own team, and you trust them and you know it can be done. So you have to be able to be present. So again, I'm not going to go through the exercises because we won't have time, but you go through things like writing down everything that's important to you. So again, it's trying to whittle down. So if we start to think in terms of to-do lists, as you all do all day long, right? If I ask you to write down now, I'm sure you can come up with like 15 things that you got to get done by tomorrow, if not the day after, and probably a lot of them should be done today. So we think in terms of to-do lists, but how often do we really prioritize? And that's where a lot of that book, the one thing, goes into. How often what can I do right now that's really going to make a difference? And if anybody's done like GPS and the 411s and those models, so if anybody's newer to Keller Williams, I know when I started, I thought, well, what's this Kool-Aid all about? This is nuts, all this, the acronyms. And I worked in Procter, one of my first jobs was Procter & Gamble, and we would joke and say you get the chip implanted so you can speak the language, right? They all speak in TLAs. I sat in a production meeting once where it was, how did making oil, creams, face creams, etc. How did the production go yesterday? Well, we lost the pig. I'm in the back. I'm the new engineer in the back of the room. And they go on and on about this pig, and it's lost in the production floor, and blah, 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 and on and on and on. So it turns out the pig they use it to clean the lines, and it happens to be pink. So it's a big foam thing that they shoot down the lines. When they finished one product, they switch to the next one. So they just speak their own language there. Then when somebody left there, we had fun one time. The plant manager left, and we played buzzword bingo. Except he was the only one that didn't know it was his leaving do. So we all had bingo cards, and every time he said one of the Procter and Gamble words. So same thing with Keller Williams. We've got a lot of TLAs, right? We've 3-letter acronyms. But if you dig into them, there's an awful lot of common sense. It's really simple stuff. So something like a 411 or GPS is taking your top level stuff. Well, what do you really want to do? And what are the 3 strategies of how you're going to do that? And you just go down and down, and you end up with a spreadsheet that says, tomorrow I have to make 14 phone calls, and I have to make them by noon to help me get to my, have $1 million commission by 5 years time, or whatever it is. You take your high level and you break it down. So there's models like that when you dig into all of this. So that's what this exercise works on. It says, start taking it what's really important, and then breaking it down. Take that to-do list and go, well, could I actually live without doing that? Could I leave that? Because it's the most, you got to focus on the most important stuff. Because we can't have it all, know it all, and do it all. We all want to, but it's not feasible, right, to be everything. Or as my daughter jokes, the whole Barbie thing about, I don't know if you know the speech where she talks about women and have it so hard, and then my 14-year-old jokes about like women's lib, and she goes, why did we tell them? We could just not tell them. We can do everything, but don't tell them we can do everything. Because guess what? Now we have to do everything. So the exercise there is to just like write down all of your to-do lists, everything that's rattling around your head, right? Because you all have stuff rattling around your head right now, and then start to frame it in terms of what really makes a difference. Does it really matter if I don't send that email till later today? But I really need, because human nature, we're going to put off the important stuff. Does anybody get up first thing in the morning and do the most important thing? So you have a closing tomorrow, you've got to read the statement or whatever it is, the one thing you have to do. You really got to call that client that you haven't spoken to since before the holidays. And they're interested in house hunting, they've gone quiet, and you got to call them. Yeah, you've sent them listings, you've done whatever, but you have to actually pick up the phone. This is my own example, because I know I've done it. I'm like, I know, I've got all these things I got to do today. All this busy work I could do instead, right? So that's the hard part. The hard part is to take your list and say, well, what's really going to make a difference? I could call that person, and I know, it might be a little bit further down the line, but it's going to move me towards my goal. They're going to buy a $700,000 house. That's a $20,000 commission, hopefully, and that's going to move me towards my goal. So I got to make that phone call. So then we get into developing a mind map. Again, we're always thinking about our mindset and how we're approaching things to get us towards our goals. And again, the program is designed not necessarily with real estate in mind. Obviously, our framework is real estate most of the time, but it's about having a mindset of working towards your goals. If anybody follows Brian Buffini, he's a real estate coach, an Irish guy. So he's a large coaching company, and himself and his wife, and I keep saying we're going to do this, I haven't done it yet. Again, the important things, they have an annual planning meeting. They sit down as a couple and they plan the year ahead. They plan it from a family point of view, from business. They put in their vacations. Anybody got vacations planned like 10, 12 months out? Okay. Do you do that every year?
Since bold, yes.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Since bold. Okay. So that's part of the mindset of, planning your life. Not like work. When my husband's first job, we were miserable for a long time. He would take a vacation when he got a chance.
But you have to pay for it in advance. You don't pay for it to clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
You pay for it like, no, I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, it's on the calendar. I'm going. Yeah. So what I did in our house was I would wait. He had a job where he traveled all the time. When things got quiet, we'd go on vacation. When will things be quiet? Well, maybe next month. Well, maybe next month. Maybe. So I said, you know what? I'm going to book one. I give up. I'm just booking one. If it gets moved, it gets moved. If it gets cancelled, I won't be happy. But so we would put them on the calendar, and a lot of the time we made them. And if we didn't, I said, well, if your job is forcing you to cancel or move your vacation, they're taking the hit. Tell your boss you got to write you a check because it cost you money to move your vacation. You've had it on the calendar for 6 months. They don't own you 7 days a week, 12 months of the year. So once we started to do that, it made a difference. It made a huge difference. Vacations are important to us. That's our family time. The way we both work, and he's traveling all the time for work. So
the biggest change I found is clients respect you more when you respect your time.
They absolutely do.
If you don't set a boundary, they will call you at 2 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I set my boundaries early. Here's my vacations. I'll be gone from this time to this time.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems anymore. But
Right.
when I didn't do that,
Right.
I was chasing everyone's tail.
Yeah. Do you ever get a text about, I want to see this house? And what's your reply?
Depends what time it is. I might not reply at all.
Yeah. Or if you reply, is it, yeah, whatever, let me know what suits you. I'm wide open. And everyone ever sent the I'm wide open text, I'm available, and in the end, you'll find they don't respect you as much. If you say, I'm available from this time to this time, I say, well, I'm pretty open on Friday, except for I've got this meeting from 12 to 2. You let me know. You give them some windows. And the same thing with the emotional side. Susan and I have found this, right? Because we are, well, three of us, so we're in a team together. That's why I refer to Susan and Tiffany. We are quite empathetic. So we get in our clients, and you do, right? The nature of our work, you get in their business, right? Sometimes you learn more than you want to know. We had a bit of a hard time trying to maintain our professionalism, because if you cry with them in the moment, they'll appreciate it. In the long run, they'll see it as unprofessional. So that's one. I don't know how people do other jobs like social work, etc., where they really are. It's always difficult stuff, but yeah, we get involved in people's lives, right? They got stuff going on. I've got a divorce client again this time. I just closed a closing from a divorce client, picked up another one. So you have to be able to navigate their situation, but be the professional. Yeah, and then time is important too. Yeah, and it keeps your own sanity. The other thing on the planning, Keller Williams, Jay Papasan, who wrote some of these books with Gary himself and his wife, run a Keller Williams couples retreat, and it's all about that. It's about planning your life together. So it's also about when you plan it. When you talk about planning a vacation, right? How much of the enjoyment is the excitement coming up to it? Why do we not tell our kids when they're small? You wouldn't tell them we're going to Disney in 4 months' time. They'd drive you nuts, right? When do you tell them you're going to Disney? I know some people don't tell them until they're like in the car, night before, right? Because the excitement. Okay, and I found that with the more I think forward, so I'm not being morbid or thinking I'm retiring tomorrow. But when I think about what might retirement look like, I get very excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, we could do this, we could do that. I could be part-time teaching at a college some evenings. I could be. So it's about getting excited about your life, and without that, it's all just somewhere down the line, right? Enjoying it today as well. What's this one? Okay. So again, so we talk about your life meaning, and then as you get further into the program, we get into these ones we won't get into today. So potential through others. This is one where we've done I think we did it together. We did the leverage program. A lot of people have done that more than once. So potential through others is a huge one. There's a lot of money stuff that they go through in this program to get into the nuts and bolts of how we manage money and how we can be better at it. The potential through others is all to do with leverage, and obviously there's a ton of teams in Keller Williams. Some of them are mega teams. Like when you see the kind of size of teams and the money they do. I went to family reunion, and I'm going to forget her name, but she's got a mega team, and she stood up and she said I forget her number, but it was whatever her number was. It was I had done that volume that year. She said so many whatever. Let's say she said 7 million. So she gets on stage and she says, "Oh, she did 7 million." I think, oh, okay, good for her. She's up on family reunion stage and she did the same as me. And wow, okay, good for her. And I listen, and that's her commission. That's not her volume. So the number was the commission. But then as she gets into it, right, she practically has a call center. So she works to her skill set and she leverages, right? She's not at the kitchen table with the client because that's not her. I'm going back to more time at the kitchen table with the clients because I missed it. I love that, going to the new home with the guy's mom today. But potentially those are huge in Keller Williams, and there's different models for that. It's whatever works for you. So maybe you're solo and you're leaning on shared services. Maybe you're in a team. What's your role in a team? When I've had a few people get their license recently and ask me, what do I do? Like, do I join a team? Do I go solo? And it depends on what you want and what you bring to the table. Some people want the, teams like Matt Bellinger's is like lining everything up for you, and you show up to the appointment. And if you're great at converting, that's a great model for you. So you're leaning on others. So success through others. Matt's team members are getting success by him doing the lead gen, setting it all up, and they turn up and they're on point with their clients. They're great at the kitchen table, and that's where they're working on their skill set. So there's a lot of stuff about potential through others, and that part of the program. And then again, of course, money is important, and career. But yeah, we're still. So again, back to your mindset. We were talking about a slight change, and maybe if you want to think about this when you go home, maybe take something from today. Think about something as we're talking about mindset. What's anything resonating with you? Anything thinking, anything, well, I always wanted to go back to teaching. It was my one that's come up for me recently. Is there something that you could do today? What small change could you do today? So for me, getting back to teaching was things like I kept saying I'd go over to OU, I'd call somebody, I'd find out who's who over there. Could I get back into teaching? And I still haven't done it. So I'm teaching in this capacity right now. But yes, it's a phone call. And I haven't made the phone call. It's ridiculous, right? So what really matters to you, and what do you want to do with your life that's going to make a huge difference? And is there anything you can do today, tomorrow? Make that phone call. Is it maybe you want to join a team? Maybe inquire about a team. Maybe you want to start a team. Um, Maybe you want to move into luxury, some sort of, or whatever. There's so many groups within Keller Williams. If you maybe want to do relocation, VAs, whatever it might be, maybe have a think about that. Where are we at? Okay, just trying to pick up a point where we kind of. Okay, so this goes into talking about success and what does success look like. And the examples, Nikki Miller does a good one where she talks about, she gives some examples of people who are extremely wealthy, and does that sound like success? And then they talk about how miserable that person is. So what does success look like? So if you've ever heard Gary talk about what his life looks like, and he does that whole, switching off thing as well. He'll do, he'll come in the door and he sets aside so much time to play with his dog. He goes out and of course, he has, I don't know, 9 holes back in his backyard, and he goes out and hits balls for 45 minutes, then he cooks with his wife. He's very intentional about how he lives his life. So he's the most relaxed for, if you read on paper what he's got and what he does, and then you meet him face to face, it's almost like a mismatch. You can't imagine how relaxed he is, because he success for him is giving back is a huge part of what he does, right? The fact that he can take 2 days to sit with a bunch of 19-year-olds and tell them, tips on how to be successful in life. But also in his personal life, he talks a lot about his family and the time he spends with them. Socially, he does things like he buys concert tickets way ahead of time. Like we're talking about the vacation, right? He's an introvert. So if it's a night before, well, we go to a concert tonight. He'll find a reason to balk, and I'd be the same, right? My social battery is smaller than you might think. So I'll be liable to just not do something because if it's tonight, oh, I don't feel like it. And he's got that introvert personality, so he buys concert tickets ahead of time and tells his friends, and then he can't get out of it. So he makes sure he does the things that he knows are important, and he knows he's liable to let them slide if he doesn't, be intentional about it. So if you start to think about, well, what does success look like? It's tying so we've all, so Keller Williams Awards is fantastic. Is that success? Well, it's one of the measures, but how it translates into your life personally. Like if anybody read some of the posts about Leith, so of course I was in tears reading some of the stuff about Leith and what here means to him, what Joe's relationship means to him. That's huge. So for Leith, it's not the number of how many deals he did, and it's it's working with you. It's he's a relationship person. He loves people. You know that means a huge amount to him. So what does success look for you? Does it mean you've sold this many homes? Does it mean you'll see people post, I helped this many families? So start thinking about what it means for you. So for me, I got into because of my previous mindset of, well, I know I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. So I guess I guess I'm good at this. I'll just sell houses. I'll keep going. And I lost track of, I didn't know what it meant. Like I'm good at it, and it, brings in money. So I just keep going, I guess. So what's the point? What does it bring for you? And hopefully you find joy in your job, because if you don't, you're not delivering the value to people, right? You're that teacher who's checked out. So, and it can shift. Maybe it's just a different shift within real estate. It's team, it's not team, it's providing some classes, helping out. And it's a huge learning culture within Keller Williams. It's non-stop class. You go to classes all day, every day, and finding what resonates with you, what gives you some, helps you move forward. Okay. So he talks about, there's 6, let me see. And again, sorry, that's just one more quote from Gary. He talks about not chasing the money, because if you're doing it for the money for money's sake is, you want money for a reason. You want a vacation more. You want to spend money. Gives you choices, gives you freedom. It's not for the sake of itself. So one of the pieces he repeats in a lot of his programs is, I just want to show you the path to mastery is one of the items that he covers a lot, and then the other one is, if anyone's ever done E2P. So it's that, to switch you from that entrepreneurial mindset, and he pulls from. So it is in this program. It's in the class I took with Gary Keller, and it's about because we are mostly entrepreneurs by squirrel right mindset, the realtors. So we're great at a lot of what we do. We're great at relationships. We're great at creativity, probably our marketing. But do we have systems and methods? And that's part of a lot of what I love of Keller Williams, that they do have those systems and models. The 411. Okay, it takes time to do it, but how much more productive are you? And can you really take your business to the next level with these models? And that's a lot of what Keller Williams has to offer. So from the mastery point of view, we talk about, you've heard the model, the 10,000 hours at anything, right? 10,000 hours of welding, of selling houses, whatever it might be. Have you mastered it, right? So everyone has their license. Maybe some of you have your broker's license. You've done whatever designations, perhaps. Maybe you've got designations for seniors, for negotiating. And I asked that question earlier. So who's mastered real estate? Who's got it all figured out, right? None of us, because we're on the path to mastery, right? We have that mindset of constantly learning and figuring out. So we do master skills, but we have a mindset of being on a path to mastery. So it's the journey. We're always trying to learn and see what else we can bring to it. We did that about focusing on what matters most. So this is the the putting off the phone call, right? The phone call that I need to make to that client who I haven't spoke to since December, the whatever. So we focus a lot on our busy work, but people who are really successful do this. So that does mean some of this falls off. We drop off some of the less important stuff. Yeah, leverage. Yeah, have somebody else put in your listing. Anybody put their own signs in the yard, or did initially? I've been seeing on a dining table changing a light fixture. Not the best use of my time. I thought it was awesome. My clients thought it was fabulous. Oh, she'll do everything. She'll come over here. She'll clean the house for me. She'll fix a light fixture. She's the best. Guess how many houses I could sell when I was doing that? Right? I thought it was cool. I made my tool belt. Wow, she got all these skills. She's amazing. Then I leveraged. Then we got a handyman. Then we did all kinds of things. So yeah, I was here and selling, I don't know, a handful of houses a year. And lots of happy clients. But I was kind of tired and not doing what I should have been doing. So it's about focusing on what matters most, and that's different for all of us. Like I said, the person who joins a team, they're great at converting, maybe. So it's about focusing and then the team leader is great at setting up those systems, getting those leads. Team leader's great at lead gen, great at systems, great at mentoring, coaching. So it's all about Pareto, right? You all know the 80-20 rule, which comes from, the origins is Italy. It was about land. Somebody did a study about who owned all the land. So 20% of the people. And it tends to hold true for most things. If you read statistics for real estate, how many people drop out of the business after 5 years? What percentage of people do? What percentage of the business? So if we can focus in on our 20% that we're really good at, we can leverage and really make quite a difference. And that's where you get into this compounding. So the study is to do with dominoes. So if you take a domino and make the next one double the size, it only takes 18 dominoes to get to the height of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So it's that small movements, that phone call today, those small steps in the right direction, if they're focused, right? If we're busy work, we've got lots of small dominoes going everywhere. If we're focused and we're moving forward and we're leveraging and scaling, from one domino, it only takes 31 to get to Everest and 57 to get to the distance of the moon. So, and somebody physically did it. It's been done up to about, I think, 3 feet tall. It only took about, I want to say it's 7 dominoes, from a 2-inch to a 3-foot. And they've physically done it. They had the 3-foot plank slammed down. So if we're focused and compound that, and then the finance models look the same. Brett Tanner's class, he does the Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett's net worth did exactly this shape, right? Pretty much. It was when it all started, like whatever number of years in, where the compounding effect really took off. Or if you talk to anybody who's really successful in entertainment, music, or their big break, when did they get their big break? It came here. Nobody knows about all of this. It happened here. So that's the compounded effect, or the hockey stick. And people who get extremely good at it are here. So your Gary Kellers and your Tony Robbins are, Gary Keller's not writing offers or sitting at anybody's kitchen table. So they get really laser focused on what they're good at and leverage out and have great success. And then I just want to show you real quick the E2P model, and then we'll wrap it up. Here we go. Okay, so the idea behind this, and has anyone seen it before? Yeah. So the idea is that we are entrepreneurial and we can do fantastic things, right? If you're newer in real estate, your first couple of years, if you had some success, it's super exciting, right? Like, oh my gosh, I can meet these people, I can market this way, I send these postcards and people call me back, and these. So you make it a certain distance, and this is your natural ceiling of achievement, right? Because you don't have leverage, you don't have systems, so you can't get beyond that. Then you get, frustrated. You start to resign yourself to, oh, okay, I can only sell a dozen houses a year. That's it. That's my limit. I do one a month. I do decent, and your excitement definitely starts to fall off. Right? You're not loving your job like you used to. It starts to become a bit of a grind. Then what often happens is, how many people switch brokerages when this starts to happen? A lot, right? And not to say switching brokerage is always the wrong choice. It worked out fantastic for me when I did it 2 years ago coming here. It was the right choice at the right time. And it wasn't due to frustration. It was due to the opportunity. It was a pull. Joe did not recruit me. He never called me once. I called him, and that's part of the Gary that quote from Gary Keller about things chasing you. Don't Or have you ever heard the expression? With a client, if you're negotiating, they have to want it more than you. Have you ever really tried to push a deal? Or like, well, what if this and what if that, and or you'll shave your commission, or you'll do whatever. You're doing whatever it takes to just get this done. Well, they have to want it more than you. So that's how I was drawn to Keller Williams. Nobody came knocking on my door. So people will often make changes there that they think, well, if and that's a little bit victim mindset. There's something outside of my control that's making this difficult for me. It's not my fault. There's nothing I could do different. That's it. Well, if only I was at the right brokerage, if only I had. What are they going to do for me? And on and on, right? So you switch brokerages, maybe do better for a little while, or whatever change it is that you make. So what's missing is having a purposeful mindset, right? Well, where am I trying to get to, and what systems am I going to use? So it's where you break through. Okay, and whatever that looks like, whether it's like I said, examples I said already, like leading on shared service, whatever it is. So that's where your systems come in, and it doesn't come naturally to a lot of realtors because we are more, creative. We are squirrel brain, right? We need someone to, and that was Gary's thing. How when I asked him how does he just stay in the room, it's because he got a great boss. So that's his leverage, that's his structure. So it's about setting up systems and structures that'll help you break through that, because otherwise it's a cycle. And there is definitely a frustration, and job becomes a little bit of a grind if you're in that cycle. If you're not taking it, and of course, after that ceiling, the floor becomes a ceiling, and on you go. But if you keep a mindset of what's the purpose of it all in your life, and moving forward. Okay, I think that's probably a good spot to stop, because like I said, it's like a 2-day program. So I just wanted to give people a taste of it, some of the kind of topics that are covered in it, that it's interesting for us to think about for our own business, for our own lives, and potentially if anybody's interested in delivering the program, the material is all given to you, even all the notes of what talking points, etc. So it's really easy to jump in on, and you can just take slices of it and deliver it to a class. There's things like the finance one is really simple, so some simple finance tips for younger adults, and I think is a great way to plug into your community and potentially drive your business, your local community college. No, no.
So it kind of has to do with what you're talking about, and I just wonder if I hear what you're saying about they're targeting like the 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard any discussion about a program for like high school?
Yes. So he does 2 versions. There's a high school version as well, and it's the same. I have the yeah. Yeah, I have the manual. I have the high school manual. I don't have it with me, but if you want the high school manual, I'll give that to you. You can take a look at it. It's broadly speaking the same material, just a slightly different slant, of course, and then the way you talk to the points is a little different. I think high school's a great idea.
It's so crazy that even my own children are like, how do you ever save up enough money to buy a house? Because they don't understand that there are mortgages and people then pay on that, and it kind of gets wrapped in all that stuff that they should be. Everybody agrees that they should
Should be learned, yeah.
The high schools of, the personal finance basics.
Yep.
But
they don't
somehow never get to the kids. They're all, worried
Yeah.
about teaching them college prep stuff. But
Yep.
in order to be successful at that age,
Yep.
the age of 18, if they have a bank account with, some savings, it should be in a high yield savings. I mean, just
Right.
little.
Yeah. They don't get it. True.
get
That's
none
my
of it.
son. He left home with, I got a credit card in his name. I didn't give it to him when he was, I don't know, 15 or 16. Time build up his credit, build up his credit, build up the credit. I had a client who did it. It worked out fantastic. At 18, we bought a condo here behind the Royal Park with his name on it. He'd no earnings, but he had the credit score. So he could be primary, mom was secondary. So he's going to OU. They bought it in his 150,000. They bought it in his name. She's paying the mortgage for him. He's building his credit. They got the lower property taxes. They got a better mortgage product because he's buying it as primary. And that worked out there. My son's story is slightly different. He took his credit score and screwed it in 1 month. But he didn't, yeah, I'll pay. I'm waiting to get paid from the job. And as soon as I get paid from the job, I'll pay the credit card bill. I'm like, but now you've missed the date. And now your score just tanked overnight. But it's okay, Mom. I'm going to get the money next week. And not understanding, the basics. Yeah. Yeah. I know there's talk of it. I hear a lot about, various school districts and states and whatever, but I haven't seen it hit the classroom.
I feel like my kids are at that age where they're either in high school or just graduated, and they never had anything to do.
No.
Like that. I mean, I think the schools are getting better where there's, it's probably a little bit more in Romeo than in Rochester, where it is probably primarily college prep, but we're, in Romeo also focusing on trades and getting, kids opportunities that are not college bound. So I think they are getting better in some respects, but still, those basics, I think, just there's a need to.
Some you just get all the school and you can't volunteer over your time.
Yeah.
Maybe you get involved in one of the classes.
Yeah.
So
the teachers won't. Yeah, you won't have to kick the door in to give the teacher an hour off. They'll happily sit in the back while you take over a class. Yeah.
I was in teaching. My husband is in his 16th year teaching. He's a choir teacher. And after festival, they just had festival, there's downtime for like 2 weeks. He'd love to have someone come in so he can get his next stuff ready.
Right. They'd love a breather, yeah.
And on that note, there's no state, just so you know, there's no state standard for any finance. But at your local level, you could go to your school board and ask them to do that. And that's where I think I would start if you're talking local levels, go to your school board. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
And then have your school board make it. All our high school students will do this
program.
Or learn this.
Yeah.
I mean, the primary opportunity here is to educate the young people, but there's also the, kind of.
Not only educate, then you can. I know that age, juniors is what I would be thinking.
Yeah.
To talk to the juniors because that's when they're deciding what are you doing. Are you applying to colleges? To see something like this as a junior and go real estate.
Yeah.
I would love to see something like that come to my school.
And it's not necessarily promoting even the real estate.
Yeah, it's a mindset. It's the opportunity. It's the options. Yeah.
But it could lead.
Yep.
It could be the simple finance things that are outlined, kind of where you also to the mindset. It could be the financial aspect. It could be just an understanding of how one goes about purchasing a home.
Yep.
And kind of what the market looks like right now. And it could have a little bit of information about what a real estate agent actually does, but maybe even more so the importance of getting started in purchasing a home versus renting for your, because I think it's like age 30 or something people are.
The average time.
The average time that, they buy their first home when they're at age 30, when it could be
21.
much younger.
You're 21, right, Tiff? Yeah.
Yeah, and that there's opportunities for wealth
The
that start at that age.
if you look at the sections there, you can cut it up any way you want, and they package it when you're when you're logged into their website. And you may not even need to be logged in to see all that it has to offer. You can see them broken into different chunks. You can take it whichever way you like. You can look at you can focus on the finance, maximizing the maximizing your potential. That's where they go into like the GPS and the 411 being organized and planning for your success. Then you've got the rules of money. That's the finance section. So you can take a whole package. I think it's probably a lot to try to deliver into a high school group. But if you took it in, take whatever chunk you think is relevant, take the finance one, and go deliver. And maybe you could touch on a bit of stuff at the beginning, and a little bit of mindset, and then jump into the finance. Make it like an hour and a half, or
just centered around compounding and how that works.
Yep.
And how
Yeah.
if you took
credit score. Yeah, I know the loan officer I work with, she's offered. She says if you're ever doing anything like that, I'd love to come in and teach them about mortgage, or even just the credit scores.
There's so much. I mean, any of that.
Yeah.
There's such a need. I think.
Yeah.
Our young people are, unless they're connected somehow with a program or somebody who does that for a living.
Yeah.
There just seems to be such an absence in understanding those important
Right.
nuggets.
And they'll ship all these to you for free. So you just pay that, I forget the amount, I want to say it was a couple or a few $100s to sign up at the start, to send you all the teaching manuals. So they're just these ones. So they send you the teaching manuals, you join the program, and then you deliver it as much as you want. And every time you're delivering it, you say, hey, I need 20 manuals, I need another bunch of manuals. And they ship these out to you. And you can have people you can not ask for any admission whatsoever, or you can do a suggested donation. But there's not necessarily any charge, which is obviously the way to do it for schools. When you start delivering it to young adults, depending on the audience, you might say they could donate if they want to. But it's free going forward once you join the program. So yeah, take anybody. I think it's 50 in the box. Help yourself to those. The only difference is though that the manual that you get, if anyone wants to take a look at this, I only have the one because this is my one. It's just colored differently because it was before they did the name change, but it's all the same information. So they basically give you, for each slide, they give you some talking points. Sometimes there's stories that Gary tells in his videos, give you ideas of what you could talk about in relation to those. And you make your own notes and whatever. It's easy. Yeah, it's just reading. And then the videos they give you for examples are really good. There's a lot of Gary. There's videos of Wendy Papasan and Nikki Miller. Nikki Miller's, super successful, young, blonde, gorgeous. Yeah, you want to hate her, but she's super nice. Those videos are really good as well. So set your success to that.
Nikki Miller's awesome.
She is phenomenal. Yeah, she's pretty amazing. Yeah, she runs coaching. She got teams. She got coaching programs. She runs. She teaches a lot of this stuff.
She's like a high-level soccer player, athlete lady.
As well. Oh, I didn't know that part of it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's inspirational. She is. And very nice and like down to earth kind of person too. Any questions?
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Emer.
Oh yeah, pleasure.
Happy birthday.
One big statistic that I heard, Wendy Patton, a close friend of mine, was talking about it. She said that in some research, she found that the average age of retirement for someone that's rented their whole life, the average net value they have, net worth, is over $5 grand. You've rented your whole life. Average net value nationwide for someone that's bought a home early is $700,000.
Right.
What a huge difference to make in someone's life.
Wow.
And show them how not to be in that other mindset.
Right. So you're a few rent checks left. That's all you got at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's all you got. They just don't have the mindset to save and put away. It's just not what they have.
Yeah. And the Social Security and all that going forward is something to. There's going to be nothing. We're all living too long. Oh, we might not touch it. No, the people who are about to retire are probably safe. Just about. That's it.
You can't afford to live.
No, you can't. And used to, anyone remembers, oh, if I had $1 million, right? If you retired younger today on $1 million, that's not going far. No, we'll get to that a lot. Yeah. Money kind of halves about every 20 years, I think, is the Brett Tanner's model. So, yeah. Hope it's helpful. Thank you for having me. It's helping me. Absolutely, yeah. Helping me on my back to teaching journey.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm like 22, so I
Yeah.
think I'm like in a good age range.
Yeah.
How did your son sign up for the thing at Austin?
No, I don't believe it's on